welcome to Mangard Rovers Game Week 13 prediction show with myself, Sean, joined by Nathan and Phil. How you both doing? Both good?
Very good.
You.
Nice one.
Very
Solid
good.
stuff. We've got an interesting weekend of fixtures coming up this weekend, and it all starts on Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoffs. First one's Brentford, Burnley. Nathan, where do you see this one going?
Oh, what a game to start to get the juices flowing, eh? Brentford versus Burnley. I don't mean that in any bad way. It's going to be a tight game, isn't it? I think you've obviously got Brentford who are a little bit hit and miss with their performances. 1 week they'll throw in a really good performance. Next week, maybe not so good. Burnley relegation zone now. This is a big game for them. I think this is a massive game for Burnley than I think it is for Brentford. So I am going to go for Brentford 1, Burnley 0.
Ooh. Phil, what about yourself? What do you think? Do you think Brentford have got a bit more in them?
Yeah, I think it's a bit tight affair because I think that they're from a skill point of view, I think they're relatively evenly matched. But I think Brentford have probably got more. Well, they've got more Premiership experience, probably a bit more game management now, slightly stronger set pieces. And I don't think us Yorkshire boys like travel. Or Lancashire, well, Northern boys. Let's go with that. For Burnley, not Yorkshire, they. But don't like travelling down south. They're going to get a nosebleed down there. So yeah, I think it probably smacks that they're, like I say, Brentford's probably experience probably comes to the fore. Their organisation probably comes to the fore. They probably grind Burnley down. So I think probably Brentford. Oh shoot! I might say the same thing as you now, Nick. I can't what you said. Brentford 2, Burnley 1.
Well, I'm going to go 3-1 on this one. Yeah, Brentford good form. That
You
Brazilian
just need those
striker we've got.
fantasy points from Thiago, don't you? That's what you need.
I was cheeky as well last week. I put him in and he missed a penalty and got a yellow card. I was devastated. Still kept me top though. I was still just about top, clinging on for dear life. It's like I'm being pulled down by a couple of guys in second and third. It's really close now. But yeah, so I'm going to go 3-1 on that one. We've got another 3 o'clock. We've got Man City host Leeds. Phil, back to winning ways for City after last week's loss.
Yes, I can't see much hope for Leeds. They'll want to do themselves proud, obviously, with that Leeds Manchester enmity, but I just can't see it. Do you know what I mean? They're not City are not going to be happy about last weekend. They're not going to be particularly happy about the midweek game in the Champions League. And I just think, what more do they need? I think Erling Haaland is probably fired up to have a field day. Doku has looked really, really dangerous. Foden has as well. And I just don't think Leeds will have the attacking power to push them back and capitalise. I think City will still look reasonably fragile at the back. I just don't think Leeds will have enough to actually pose enough threat for it to cause them a problem. And City at home, I think they want to put a show on for the fans. So I reckon Manchester City 3-0.
What about yourself, Nathan? What do you think? Then you've obviously got some family ties to Leeds, and
Yeah, I think so. Obviously we spoke about this in the last game, last show. Sorry, they've got some incredibly tough games, haven't they now? And obviously it starts now. Well, it started last week with against Villa. It didn't get any easy with an away trip to City. I said last week I don't think Leeds played too badly against us. They just wasn't ruthless. They just couldn't put it in the net, and the 2 bits of quality lost them the game. They now go to a Man City who are a little bit wounded. Obviously, he made a lot of changes midweek, didn't he, Pep? So he's got his fingers burnt for doing that. I think he'll probably see a reaction. I think everyone thinks it might be like the gates open and Leeds are going to get absolutely hammered. I don't think they will. I think Leeds will make it quite hard for Man City. I think they'll probably put 10 men behind the ball. I still think City will win quite comfortably, but I'm not going to go as high as Phil. I'm going to go for Man City 2, Leeds 0.
I'm going to go 2-1 City on this one.
Oh, you think Leeds are going to score?
If Leeds just sit and watch the game and watch the masterclass that Newcastle put up last weekend, they'll get some inspiration from that. So yeah,
We'll watch a masterclass. We want to learn how to execute one to have a chance in a match.
Yeah, I do worry for Leeds. They're struggling to score goals, but Haaland's on form. Hopefully, he'll be back on form this weekend for the fantasy points. I reckon he'll probably get a couple, but yeah, going to be quite reserved and 2-1 to sit for me. Sunderland
The
and
other thing
Bournemouth.
as well, Sean. Sorry, Sean. The one thing I was going to say is that this is a must win for Man City as well, because obviously you've got Chelsea and Arsenal squaring up to each other, and if Chelsea did get that result, it pushes them a little bit further up, and City start declining. So, but then if Arsenal win, that gap gets even further, doesn't it? So this is a really big game for Man City. You'll be looking at that with Pep. Like I say, I think they will win though. So
Yeah, it's massive for Pep, obviously, that game. He needs to win. A lot of people are whispering about Chelsea being title contenders. But we'll come on to the Chelsea game in a bit, obviously. Sunderland at home to Bournemouth, that's an interesting one. That's 3 o'clock as well. That could be game of the weekend, that. Phil, why don't you take us through that one?
I think game of the weekend is. I don't know what you've been smoking tonight, pal. But flipping heck, no chance on earth of that in the game of the weekend. I think there's a danger in that game. It's systems cancel out systems. I think Sunderland are extremely solid at home. Bournemouth will go up there. They'll fancy their chances of winning. Obviously, they'll want to win as well. With how tight it is at the top of the table, they'll want to keep themselves in the mix. But I think they'll find it really tough. I think Sunderland, they won't want to slip. They also want to stay in the mix. I think is it 5th versus 6th? I don't know, it's some ridiculous 6th versus 7th. But neither of them doesn't want to slip down, and I think there's a danger they potentially just cancel each other out. But I think, yeah, I'm not too sure on this. And I'm going to say Sunderland are solid enough at home. So I think Sunderland 2, Bournemouth 2. Desmond.
Yeah,
I don't think there's much between.
How about yourself, Nathan? Why do you see this one? And do you think Bournemouth will have a bit more, or do you think Sunderland will be too strong at home?
I think you've got two evenly matched teams. So I think that the level on points in the table, there's only goal difference that separates them. We've seen what Sunderland are about at home. They make it incredibly tough for teams. Make it hard for them to score. You've obviously got Bournemouth, who the away form isn't brilliant. Obviously, they got turned over by us a couple of weeks back, and they got turned over quite comfortably. So it's but they still have some very good players. Obviously, Semenyo, whether he's got a chance of coming back and playing, because I know he didn't play the last game, did he?
I think
yeah, Evan Nilsson's obviously a very dangerous player as well. But I'm going to go similar to Phil. I'm not going to go 2-2. I'm going to go 1-1.
Yeah, I don't think there's much between them at all, is there?
It can go either way, this one, to be fair for me. I think both are capable of winning. I'm going to go 2-1 Bournemouth.
Oh, he's desperate for them points, isn't he?
Desperate
he's
for
after
them
it.
points, absolutely.
We'll probably just note from us all at this point, isn't it? Let's face it, we're what, 30, this is game week 13?
13, yeah.
Game week 13, and we're all reasonably comfortable saying there's nothing much between Bournemouth, who we would all see as an established, well-organised Premiership team, and Sunderland, who came up through the playoffs. I think that's a massive credit to Sunderland, whatever happens at the weekend. Because I don't think any of us hesitate to say how closely matched they are.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah, but yeah, Bournemouth have had a bit of a dip in form in the last couple of weeks. Since your boys beat them, they've just not really been the same, have they? So kind of expect a bit of a response. So hopefully 4 points for me on Monday, and we'll see where that one goes. Everton Newcastle, 5:30 Saturday night.
John, talk us through it then.
Yeah, come on, big man.
One away, which worries me. Do you know what? We played well in the Champions League the other night. It was a decent performance. Annoying that Mason Greenwood and Aubameyang had a great game between them both. Hope, I don't even know where to start with that one. Absolutely, it still hurts now, to be fair.
Right, this season, though, hasn't he? He's saved you a few times this season. He's like,
yeah, but
he played well against
a lot now, though. That for me, that was a really poor judgment to come out that far. He's nowhere near the ball. He's nowhere near it.
Then again, I know I'm biased, but you look at that. But you would say Manuel Neuer is one of the best goalkeepers in the world, and look how far he came out against Martinelli.
Yeah,
and looked after. So it's not. What I'm saying is, I'm not sure one storming out of his goal.
Pope's did it 4 times now.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on how it's doesn't it?
To be fair though, with a goalkeeper, and this any goalkeeper, when you come that far off your line and you don't get the interception, you run the risk of being look stupid. Like with Neuer, the best keeper one of the best keepers in the world, or he was at one stage, literally was in absolute no man's land. Obviously, when Martinelli knocked it past him. So yeah, but like Pope for me though, Sean, you go on about him at times. Is it time that Ramsdale gets a chance then or not?
For me, absolutely. Yeah, I've been saying this for a while. I think Ramsdale, he just looks so much more comfortable with the ball. I mean, let's not forget, if it wasn't for Raya, he'd probably still be Arsenal's number one keeper, and that probably says a lot about him. So we know his quality. We know he's comfortable with the ball at his feet. We've known that for a long time. For me, he needs to start more often. I mean, I still think Dubravka, when he was with us, was still a far better keeper than Pope.
He was decent,
So
wasn't he? Yes.
yeah, I think.
You don't like your keeper, but back to the match.
Well, yeah. Anyway, yeah. I'm going to put my blinkers on. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, simply because we need to win. We need to start winning, and if we don't start winning away, it's going to be a long season for us. A long season, especially in the Premier League. Because we are quite low in the league. To be fair, when you look at we're doing well in the cups and the Champions League, we've been okay, but realistically now we need to start winning games in the Premier League, and if we've got to go for a 2-1 win.
Climb the table, don't you? You need to
It's
climb that table.
yeah, and it's a tough place to go, is Everton. It always has been. They've got a bit of momentum. They're starting to play well now, so yeah, 2-1. I'm hoping. About you, Nathan? What are you going for?
This is a difficult game for Newcastle, isn't it? Because obviously you've got Everton coming on the back of that brilliant win at Old Trafford with 10 men. Obviously, I think Idrissa Gueye is going to be suspended, and he's good for them in midfield. But they've got a very good attacking-minded team now, haven't they? Everton. I've said it all along with Ilian and Dye and Jack Grealish on the wings, and then Dewsbury Hall. So just behind, it's a really, really good sort of attacking sense. Newcastle, the performances are there. You got to look at the performance that you did against City, but it's at home. You're a force to be reckoned with, but away, it just seems like when you go away to teams, you find it difficult, and I don't know why.
We
It's
just lose
hard. I
our
know.
we,
Yeah.
we lose our identity when we play away.
And that's frustrating, isn't it? Eddie Howe will be looking at that. I think the one thing I would say is if you don't get the result and the teams around you start picking up, you're only going to be a couple of points off sort of the relegation zone, and that's scary for
Mental,
Newcastle.
innit? Mental to think like
It,
that's a
it
talking
really
point.
is. You shouldn't be nowhere near that area now. Not neither should Liverpool really, but it's an incredibly difficult game. I'm I'm going to say the same as I said to you last week. I don't share the optimism. I think Everton are going to beat you, and I think Everton are going to beat you 2-1.
It's a fair comment. Yeah, I won't be surprised, but I obviously don't want that to happen. Phil, what about yourself? Have you got a bit more faith in Newcastle away this week, or am I well on my own?
Yeah, no, I think it's a strange one this season out in Newcastle because, like I said, they've got all the ingredients that they should be far higher up the table. I think you also got balance it off against the fact we're only 12 games in, and form dips and rises through the season, don't they? Every team has a wobble in form. Obviously Nate, your boys were there right at the start of the season, and Newcastle have just been a bit inconsistent with the bumps rather than slump maybe, but everything's there. We saw that last season. You don't go from finishing fifth in the league last season to being shit over one transfer window, particularly when you've only lost a prima donna and you've gained quite some good signings. So, the troubles on the road are just intriguing, confusing, interesting. Everton, again, they flip flop, don't they? Between, like you said, Nate, they've got such good attacking potential and attacking threat, and the performance and some of Pickford's saves against Man United on Monday were quite
You were
striking.
outstanding when he's Pickford against Man
Really
United.
was, really
Played
was.
well,
But
didn't
but likewise, they've had other games where they look completely toothless, and Grealish has looked a bit lost. And I suppose, to be fair, maybe that's the difference, isn't it? I guess between being struggling in the mass and being towards the top or bottom of the table is you don't really have an extreme of form. You're bouncing continuously between good performances and not so good performances. But I tend to think Newcastle will have too much. I think the midfield of Newcastle, if they turn up, is just a stronger engine room than Everton's, and I think that Newcastle won't mind things coming down the flank because I think they'll expect to win the headers in the middle and just clear it away. So I think Newcastle should have too much. Score-wise, I do think it'll be tight. And in the interest of stopping you catching points on me, I'll say Newcastle 2, Everton 1. So let's go with that. It'll be a close game. Well, I'll go 2-1 as well.
We've got Saturday night, 8 o'clock, we've got Spurs against Fulham. London derby. Phil, Spurs, can they recover after last week's absolute fucking demolition? I mean, to be fair, fucking hell.
The mighty Tottenham Hotspur. Like how not to play football in one quick, easy lesson. Watch Spurs and learn how not to do it. Spurs, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? The ultimate Spurs. I listened to the radio this morning, and there they all are, lauding the fact they got smashed 5-3 last night. It's quite unbelievable. What a wonderful mentality for a football club to get defeated 5-3 and still think they've played well. It's just. So that's the mentality they bring, isn't it? The players lack fight, lack heart, lack desire. The question is, will they be up for it? Clearly, they couldn't get up for a proper London derby last weekend. So why would we think they get up for the London derby this weekend? Fulham will make it difficult for them. They'll be in their faces. They'll look to fundamentally rough them up a bit, I think, because it looks like Spurs players just lack fight when you give them a bit of rough and tumble. Apart from maybe Richarlison, who tends to bite too much and get fired up by it, but. By the same token, Spurs are at home, aren't they? And no, it's 3 defeats in a week looks bad for anybody, doesn't it? Apart from Liverpool, who make a career out of it. So I think I am torn. I am torn because Spurs keep letting me down every time I think they're going to do well. I don't know. I'm gonna say Spurs 1. Fulham 1. I can't split them. Let's go with that. Spurs 1, Fulham 1.
Spurs are looking a bit like they did in the last stages last season, to be fair, out of this season now. It just seem to have dropped off a little bit. Nathan, what about you? What have you got for this one?
The Spurs are looking like Spurs, aren't they? Let's be honest.
I'm glad you said that.
They're looking like Spurs. They've very inconsistent. Don't get me wrong, they're doing better under Thomas Frank than they are under Postecoglou from last season. But it's still very inconsistent, isn't it? They'll have one, they've had some really good results, sort of earlier in the season, then they've had some really poor results. It doesn't help that obviously they got absolutely annihilated against the Arsenal last week in the North London derby. Then obviously they get into sort of a bit of a wrestling match with PSG, and they eventually come out on top. Probably the game was probably a bit. I'm not talking about Champions League football, but I think PSG were probably good value for the win anyway, weren't they? So, do they want to get 3 losses in a week? Probably not. Fulham just come off a really good result against Sunderland, didn't they? They nicked it sort of late on. I do like Fulham. I like what they're about. There's some really good players in that team, but again, they have struggled themselves, haven't they, with inconsistency? Obviously, Marco Silva's a very good manager, and sometimes the results, suggest that doesn't suggest how well they've played in games where they've lost. So it is a tough one. I was going to go for a draw, but I am, even though I just took the Mickey, I'm going to shade Spurs. Spurs to win 2-1.
I'm going to go Fulham 2-1. 2-1 Fulham for me, I think. Fulham played well last week. They had a good result against Sunderland, and Spurs are just looking a bit shit, aren't they?
Spurs are just Spurs.
Just Spurs, yeah. Not much more to say about it, really, is there? Then we move over on Sunday. We've got a 12 o'clock kick-off. Strange, but yeah, I believe there's a 12 o'clock kick-off. That's Palace at home to Man United. Nathan, can you take us through this one? How do you see this one going?
Do you know what? This is an intriguing game for me. This, because obviously you've got Palace who are rock solid at home. You've got to be a really good team to beat Palace at home. I believe that this very moment in time they were 1-0 up in the Europa Conference League, which is quite good for them. Man United are coming back off that really, really disappointing loss against Everton, aren't they? So Amorim wants to see a reaction from his players. Crystal Palace will think that Man United will be there for the taking. It's It's going to be a tough one for me. This I'm going to go for Palace to win 2-1, and Amarin's at the wheel. He's changing everything.
What about yourself, Phil?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Palace have got organisation, they've got structure, seem to have fight and desire. Since Glasner's been at the helm, then been more than. I think they'll look at Monday night, and Palace will be more than comfortable with the idea of sitting deep, knowing that Man United can't do anything about that. And then striking on the break with Arteta's pace and power. Obviously Wharton's there, isn't he? Like, just to break at midfield. So I think, and Man United's midfield is shite. So it'll be an interesting one because I think they're out without Sesko, aren't they? They don't necessarily have any confidence in Xerxes. So I'm not sure who's playing up top for Manchester United, unless they're drafting that young lad they took from us, the 19-year-old or 18-year-old, whatever he is. But that'll be a lot of pressure on his shoulders. They have looked better on the road than ever at Old Trafford because they seem to be scared at Old Trafford. But to rock up to Palace's backyard and get a win against a team that's more than comfortable defending and can hit them really fast on the break, struggle to see it. I think you could see a lot of Man United huffing and buffing and just bouncing off, and Palace being quite comfortable with them bouncing off potentially. And then you could easily see Man United defence being fractured on the counter attack. So I just think, and my impression from a distance is that if you gave me the choice of Glasner or Amorim, I know I'd pick the manager, and it wouldn't be the guy from Portugal. So I think he'll outthink him, and I think his team will outfight him. And I think the moments of brilliance that Man United can possibly pull out the bag probably won't be enough. So I think Palace will win at home. I think Palace will win at home, and I think it will be Crystal Palace. Shoot, what did you say, Nate? I don't want to do the same as you.
What did I say? It was 2-1, Sean, did I say? Yeah, 2-1.
Palace 2-0.
Well, interestingly, I just said that Palace were 1-0 up and actually 2-1 down now to Strasbourg. So that could play an interesting part for Sunday, to be fair. But
I still think Palace wins. So I'll go Palace 2-0.
Right, well, I'm going to go 3-1 then because there's a real points battle on here, and we
this
could all
is
score
strategic.
It could be a 0-2 on this one. So yeah, I'm going to go 3-1 based on what you guys have said. To be fair, yeah. Nathan, we'll move on. You've got Wolves at home, 2:00.
Yes.
You get the charity match. How fair is that?
The problem I have with this game, right? Even though Wolves are where they are, they always step the game up against Villa, and they always either tend to beat us or they make it really hard for us. We do have a better record at Villa Park against Wolves than we do at Molineux, so that's obviously a positive. But they're just one of those little bogey teams. You've got them yourselves, where they just always seem to either get the better of us or put in a really good performance. Now, obviously, we've just come off a really, really good win, in the Europa League as well, which is, we've won, I think, 7 on the bounce now, which is really good. The fact that we were 1-0 down at half time against Leeds and come back gives me confidence. He did make quite a lot of changes Thursday night. He still started some of the core players, but you'll probably see a similar team to what he put out against Leeds that will play against Wolves. Wolves, I thought there was going to be a new manager bounce last week against Palace, and there wasn't. They were pathetic.
See, do you not think maybe? Sorry to interrupt. I know we're on your part of this, but just a question: do you not think maybe because obviously next week is the 3 Premier League match week, and obviously you've got Arsenal on Saturday or a week on Saturday, and you've got Brighton midweek next week. Do you not think maybe Wolves will be the game he thinks about resting people because he's got to rest them at some point in a 3-game week, right? Like, and surely you'd think Wolves is a safer bet than Brighton or Arsenal.
Absolutely, and I think obviously Mullins scoring 2 in midweek gives him food for thought, doesn't it? So obviously with Watkins not in any form whatsoever, that sort of thing, I completely agree. We may see a couple of changes, but the thing is with Unai Emery still tends to stick with his same core players. He'll look at this game. He'll want to win. He won't want to lose it. So
do you think maybe he'll think about maybe substitutions on 55, 60 minutes to try and rest people if you can get ahead in the first half?
Absolutely, I think, and I'm not being presumptuous, but if we were very comfortable in the game, sort of going into like the second half, he'll make 5 changes at least. You know, to know that obviously, to your point, Phil, we've got a really, really, like grueling fixture list, the same as obviously your team's.
Brighton's away from home for you, isn't it? So you've got trouble.
Yeah, so it's a long way to go midweek, isn't it? So yeah. Despite that, obviously with the Wolves manager, then the Wolves probably do. I do fancy us to win here. I think the form guide suggests we should win. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think we'll hammer them. The Wolves will make it really difficult. To my points earlier, because they always step the game up against us. They always do. I'm going to go for Villa to win 2-0, but it won't be a comfortable 2-0.
What about you, Phil? Where do you think this one? Do you think Wolves will have a bit more bite this time?
I think it's hard to bite when you've lost your dentures, isn't it? Like it's going to be tough for them, and I think even with Nathan's, Nathan's might well be right. They'll step it up for Derby. They'll want to put a good performance, but at the minute, I think if Wolves stepped it up, they might play as well as a Sunday League club team. It's just not going to be enough. Like Nathan said, Villa are on an unbelievable run at the minute. They're just stringing results together. They're looking confident. Emery's on top of his, like we talked about in the show on Monday. The changes he made on Sunday completely changed the game, and they're in a really good moment, and they'll want to. You point about Chelsea and Arsenal playing each other. Villa will see that as an opportunity to close the gap just as much as Manchester City will. They've got the chance to close that gap as well, because it's all right. We all talk, don't we, about watching the media and it's a 2-horse race and blah blah. Look at the points totals; they're not that far away. And they're stringing results together. So, and if nothing else as well, the more results they can string together now, the more chance they've got if they do have a blip at any point of staying in those Champions League spots, which is obviously everything to Villa this season. Whether that's via the Europa League or whether that's via the Champions League spots, they want to be back in the big time, don't they? So, I do think maybe a look at how and when he manages, what's that modern phrases, football, and it manages players' minutes this week, because obviously they're all the managers are looking at it, aren't they? Which of the 3 games do I run my risk of resting players? They've got to pick one of the 3. They can't. One or two teams, 1 or 2 players in each team might play all 3 matches from the start, but you think most teams will look to rotate at some point. And I just think maybe this is the game. I know it's a derby, which makes it a bit riskier, but you've got to base it on form at the minute. Wolves look absolutely atrocious. I know they've got the new manager, but it didn't make any difference last weekend. He's had a week on the training ground with them, but his main thing at the minute is trying to fix their confidence. They ain't got any. And if you haven't got confidence, you lack belief. If you haven't got belief, then you don't try. Even if you have got the skill, you don't try the things to do the skills because you haven't got the belief to do it. You're focusing. Everyone goes, focus back on the basics, but you do that, you lose your creativity, don't you? Because people go, I'm not going to try that level. I'm going to just make sure I do this level right. So I just think Villa will have way too much, far too confident, far too experienced. And they'll want to get this week off to a good start in terms of knowing they've got Brighton and Arsenal to come. I want to get these points in the bag, and I just think they'll have too much pace, too much craft, too much attacking power for Wolves to stop. So I think Villa to win. We'll give them some benefit of doubt because you say it's a derby, Nate. We'll go Wolves 1, Villa 3.
3-1. Yeah, I'm going to be controversial here. I'm going to go against both of you. I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for 1 apiece.
You don't like points? What's the names?
I want points. That's why I'm doing it.
Won't go for that result then.
No, I know. It's a gamble, but yeah, obviously Villa far too strong. No, Wolves shocking form, going nowhere.
Last point though, Sean. If results went our way on the weekend, we could end up second. I know it's unlikely, but then all of a sudden, we've got Brighton, and then we play Arsenal. You're in that mix, aren't you? Whether Arsenal. It's what, sorry?
You could be top by Christmas.
Well, you laughed, and I think you were 2 seasons ago.
With the trophy parade planned for Boxing Day.
2 seasons ago, just after Christmas, we were joint top.
Yeah, true, yeah.
So it's
Once upon a time, the world was flat. You know what I mean?
But if we ended up second and results go our way, then we're in those dizzy heights. But like Phil was saying, this week is going to be extremely important for all the teams because you are managing 3 games in a week. It's extremely tough, and to throw in, obviously, all our teams have just played in Europe as well. So
it's a tough week.
Yeah, I fully expect a Villa win, but like I say, I'm literally going for the point, so I'm going to go for Wolves to have a good day, Rob Edwards to get his first point, and yeah, one apiece. Forest Brighton, that's another interesting one. That could go either way, I think. Yeah, Phil, when you see this one going?
Well, it's a Game of Thrones match, isn't it? It's fire versus ice. You know, Brighton never stop attacking, create chances whether win or lose, and Forest have got the cool hands of Sean Dyche all over the wheel right now. And you know, they've last I checked, they've got 3-0 up on while we're filming this. So, you know, they're grinding out the result in Europe. They've just taken down the champions at Anfield. They're going to have absolutely nothing that's going to worry them. Brighton will not be daunted by anybody. They'll attack regardless because that's what Brighton do. They create chances whether they're winning or losing, and it often, we've touched on before in this show, comes down to, you know, less so what the opposition are doing and more so which chances Brighton take. I don't think it'll be that easy against Forest because they look way more defensively sound. They look more like last season now with Dyche in charge. Forest at home, you know, they're going to come. Looks like they're coming off the back of a big European win. And a huge confidence boost. I mean, smashed Liverpool. Well, I say confidence boost. I mean, everybody beats Liverpool at the minute, don't they? But on paper, confidence boost having won at Anfield. So I think Brighton will look dangerous, but I think Forest will have too much for them at home. And I think Brighton look like they just look vulnerable at the back always, even when they're playing well. So I'm going to say Forest 2, Brighton 1.
Ooh, Nathan, what have you got this one down as?
this is going to be a tough game, isn't it? For like I said, 2. I know Forest are slightly down. I'll say further down. They're quite a way off from Brighton, but they've, you know, they look like they're getting their act together. And as to Phil's point, obviously they've had a really good, phenomenal result at Anfield. Yeah, and then obviously they've just won. It's just been confirmed that they've just won 3-0 at home against Malmo in the Europa League. So you know they'll be going. Well, no, they'll be going into this game full of confidence, thinking that they'll be able to turn Brighton over. It's going to be a tough game for Forest because, as Phil said, Brighton, you know, they're a hard team to break down. They are decent defensively. Danny Welbeck's in very good form at the minute. He's, you know, for a guy who's 34, 35-year-old, he's putting some.
Is he that young? I thought he was 36 now.
I think
either way, he's a spring chicken.
You know, he's putting someone like Ollie Watkins to shame, isn't he? Because he's like, I'll show you how it's done. You know, it's how it should be done, and you know what I mean. So he's dangerous.
Sorry, do we think a lot of that's down to the fact that like we're getting a lot more long balls, a lot more set pieces? Do we think that that's just experienced players just because of the way that the game in the Premier League is changing, evolving at the minute?
No, I think you've got to look at Danny Welbeck. He's played for some very big clubs, hasn't he? He's played for Man United. He's played for Arsenal. He's played in different systems, so he knows the game, doesn't he? He knows whether it's going to be, you know, over the top or it's going to be. He just has good strikers know where to be, don't they? Look at Haaland. I'm not comparing Haaland to things, but good strikers know how to. They just know where.
He's always based his game on strength as well, rather than speed. Yeah. And just to split the difference, Nate, he's 35, so we both 1 year out. But you know what I mean. He's always based his game on strength, and you're still strong at 35. You know what I mean?
It goes to show you, it doesn't matter how old you are. You know, if you keep yourself fit and you know, look at Jamie Vardy for an example. Keep yourself fit, you'll carry on scoring goals at an age. And Danny Welbeck, you know, it is great to see, to be fair, because you know, usually players at 34, 35, 36 are sort of back end of the career, you know, just earning one last big payday. And he's been doing it for Brighton now for probably the last 3 or 4 seasons. So he's doing really well. But it will be an interesting game. Don't know whether it's going to be a game of where I see Forest walking it. So for that reason, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
Desi, he's still alive and well.
Desi, he's stolen my prediction. Wow.
Don't do it, Sean. Don't go for Brighton win.
What did you go, Phil?
I said Forest 2, Brighton 1.
I'm going to go Brighton 2, Forest 1.
You're too busy playing the game and not thinking about the actual match.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, no, a game that can go either way. I think, to be fair,
Good.
Dyche is definitely settling that ship at Forest now, playing some good football. Brighton a bit inconsistent, but scoring goals. Welbeck's in form, playing well. I think Minter's back this weekend as well. He's a phenomenal winger for
Great
Brighton.
player.
Yeah, quality player. Came from Newcastle. I didn't play a game for Newcastle. So yeah, I'll take the hit. I'll go Brighton 2-1 on this one. This next one's got some interesting points. We've got West Ham struggling against another team struggling, Liverpool. Nathan,
Go
do
to
you want
me.
to take us through this one?
Yeah.
This could be I don't
This
know where to go with this one.
So I'm just currently looking at the table, and I can't believe that Liverpool are 12th, but they are. That's
Yeah.
just football, and this is the one reason with football it never fails to surprise you, does it? There's always something, whether it's any team falling, but the fall from grace for Liverpool is absolutely it's baffling. Especially we've talked about this for the last few weeks, where you know can they keep getting better? Can they, they've got to keep getting better, but they don't. They got absolutely turned over 3-0 comfortably against Forest last week. They've just been battered by PSV at home by 4-1. And you're thinking to yourself, if you're a Liverpool fan, surely we go to West Ham and show a bit of fight. And, you know, despite everything, West Ham they've shown a bit of fight under Nuno, haven't they? They've climbed up a couple of places, not much. They've they've started to get their act together. They'll make it really tough for Liverpool. Obviously West Ham isn't an easy place to go to. They will make it tough. Do I see an improved Liverpool performance? I think we do. But how much of improvement do we see? Is it going to be enough to get them the win? I'm not sure. So I'm not going to. I'm going to go down the middle. I'm going to go 1-1. So yeah. Oh, but I still, I think, to my point though, even though you probably see if it is a draw, I still think that's as bad as a loss for Liverpool, in my opinion. So it may have
Absolutely.
stood right,
Yeah.
but yeah.
What about you, Phil? Have you got a bit more confidence in Liverpool? Do you think they'll turn West Ham over, or do you fully expect West Ham to turn up at home and get something from that?
So I know I said this last week. It's about rinse and repeat, isn't it? Is it like this can't carry on for Liverpool? Like at some point, the players are still too skillful for this to last too much longer. Whether or not they've down tools, there's a lot of debate about that. I think Van Dijk's been found out as not a great defender. Obviously, Alisson's just coming back to fitness from a long layoff. Canate's got too busy, looking for houses in Madrid. Slot's busy not playing defensive fullbacks and playing these fanciful 20-year-olds who can't defend for shit. The midfield's looking weak because he keeps pulling Szoboszlai out and playing him in defence because he has to cover those wing backs. Alexander Isak's having the season you prayed for, Sean. So it's listen. You can be honest here. Let's face it. The man deserves some very negative juju for the way you treat people right, you treat people wrong, and you deserve what you get off the back of it. So he didn't treat the situation very well, from what we can tell. But anyway, so they've got skill, but Wirtz is still injured as well. And West Ham will be up for. Of course, West Ham will fancy it. Whoever you've just literally watched Liverpool lose 4-0 to a shit PSV side, 3-0 to a Forest team that you would argue, if you knew you're gonna believe you're as good as, because fuck me, you were training Forest last season. You know what you think of the West Ham players compared to the Forest players because you've trained them both within the last 6 months.
I don't know what.
You've watched Liverpool get smashed by Man City. Like there's nothing. I mean, you don't need any natural confidence, but there's nothing you're looking at from West Ham players. If you know, your team talk's easy. This lot are mentally weak, mentally broken, and if you get in amongst them, they'll crack again. You've got nothing to be scared of. Rip right into them and see what happens. That is the team talk done. You don't need to be a freaking Premier League manager to work that team talk out, do you? And West Ham have got players who are fighters. They clearly can't match Liverpool for skill. And on a given season, this is a banker for Liverpool, isn't it? Like, West Ham are Arsenal banana skin, not Liverpool's. But Liverpool are so fragile at the minute. I just worry that it doesn't come down to skill. It comes down to mental fragility. And at the minute, anytime anything goes against Liverpool, the players just seem to crumble. And it really, that's the bizarre thing for the season, I think, because everybody has dips in forms, everybody has blips in results, and every team will go through it at some point in the season. But to see how mentally weak and not up for the fight they look from champions when you're defending your championship, that I think is the shocking part for a lot of people. And so it's difficult because, like I say, every bone in my body says, Liverpool have got to turn it around, and away at West Ham is as good a chance as any. But I just think if West Ham got an early goal, you could see Liverpool just literally folding again, because there's just that utter lack of leadership on the pitch when something starts going wrong. It's a real shock. I mean, I never thought Van Dijk's as good as people make out, but you've always respected him as a leader on the pitch and a vocal leader on the pitch, and that seems to have disappeared this season. He's almost hiding in plain sight. And it's all right saying Konate's not playing well, but we all know Van Dijk's the heart of the Liverpool defence. Like, Gomez always looked better playing with Van Dijk. Konate looked better playing with... Everybody looks better when they play with Van Dijk. And at the minute, he's allowing himself to drop down to their level rather than dragging them up to his level. And for whatever reason that is. So I am really, really torn. But I don't see Liverpool turning it around. I think that performance on Wednesday was horrific. So I'm going to say West Ham 3, Liverpool 2.
So we've got a 1-1 draw from Nathan, 3-1 from Phil.
3-2.
3-2, sorry, from Phil.
To West Ham.
I'm going to have to go with a Liverpool win.
He's playing very strategic, isn't he, Phil?
He's all he's not thinking about the games. He's literally thinking about our little private league. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Like, there's been some media circulation, and there's headlines popping up like if it doesn't win against West Ham, then it could be getting sacked. I mean,
he's not. You don't suck a championship when you manage
to lose this weekend, but like the amount of pressure that's piled on if they don't win this weekend, it just goes up a notch again, doesn't it? Just goes up another level.
I'll ask a question though, Phil. We say you don't get this up, but if it carries on, when's enough's enough?
So when you
I get what you're saying about credit.
When you listen to stories coming out of Liverpool, right? Slot's brief was, you're getting nobody in the first season because we don't want to disrupt the team, and the second season we want you to start transitioning to your way of football, right? That's what the brief was given. And from what I mean, we all listen to different points in the media, don't we? From what little I understand of Liverpool, I'm not massively interested in them. I don't look that far down the table, but in general, like, they knew this season was going to be a transition season. You've lost. Forget obviously the tragedy of Diogo Jota. You've lost Diaz, you've lost Nunez, you've lost Trent. 3 massive, if nothing else, even with Diaz and Nunez, massive characters. They did. For all, Nunez always reminded me of, like, he didn't have the goal scoring capability, but the temperament of a Diogo Costa. Do you know what I mean? He was an absolute bastard to play against, even when he wasn't. Even when he missed 3 or 4 chances a game, defenders didn't like defending against him. Same with Luis Diaz. He was really hard to defend against. He was doing really well at Bayern Munich, but he's really hard to defend against because he doesn't know what he's going to do. And if he don't know what he's going to do, what chance is the defender? So losing them two is huge from an attacking point of view. Trent, obviously, everyone undervalued Trent, and you can see part of the reason why he wanted to leave, because I think some of his interviews he was saying he never felt like he'd been properly valued in the last couple of years. And look at some of the grief he took off basic, some basic errors, but the grief associated with that probably wasn't in measure. So they knew this season would transition. Add to that the fact that the new signings haven't stepped up, and all right, people always hide behind now this it's the manager's job to get the best from the players. Well, to some degree, yes, but at some point you've got to go, look, you are massively highly paid professionals, and to cop out by saying the guy who's paid probably half of what you guys are paid is responsible for making all of you perform, and you have no responsibility. To me, is modern society summed up in an absolute fucking cop out. you're responsible for your performance. That the manager's responsible for gelling you all together and giving you the knowledge and information on the opposition and how he wants you to play. Your job to execute on it. And there was, like I said, that lack of fight is not down to the manager. That's just like it's like going to work in it and wanting to do a good job or not wanting to do a good job. Like that's not down to your manager. It's down to you as a mental fragility or strength, depending which way you look at it. And so for me, if that was his brief and they knew this was a transition season, when they've just spent 400, 500 million pounds on the players that he wants, you've got to give him the season. You've got to. Let's face it, Liverpool aren't getting relegated, are they? So you've got to give him the season to bed them in and see if he can bring his vision to the fore. Because when you look at, I was listening to Drive this afternoon, and when you look at, everyone goes, oh well, he won the league with Klopp's team. Well, maybe that's true, but Klopp only managed second, third, and fifth in his last 3 seasons with that same team. So if that's your measure, then Arne Slot's a better manager than Jurgen Klopp because he took exactly the same team and finished better than Jurgen Klopp could finish. So that's not an argument in my mind because even if that's your start point of the argument, Arne Slot got more out of the same players than Jurgen Klopp got out of them. So to suddenly suggest he's lost it just because I still think, and I know I said it on Monday, and it's starting to come out in mainstream media now, which I just always smile about when us guys playing about it spot something first. But I just think he's been massively underplayed. This guy was best mates with Salah. He was a huge part of the dressing room, and he's just dropped dead at 27. Not dropped dead, been killed at 27, whatever it was. That impact on young men. Let's face it, the oldest, even the oldest of these players is probably 10 years younger than me. He's probably five, nearly 10 years younger than you two. Like, it's a massive impact at a time of your life where there's so many other things going on, and I don't think we should underplay the psychological knock of that. And like I said, when I say I think Liverpool's the biggest issue this season is mental fragility. I'm not saying that's their fault, but it's mentally they've clearly not lost the skill. Like it's the mental side of the game they're struggling with, and I do think it's underplayed Jota's death, and it's not a cop out forever. And the football's a results business. You can keep saying that, but it doesn't change the fact those guys in that team lost a friend, and that will also have made it harder for the new signings coming in. Because instead of coming into a bouncing, jumping, yeah, we've just won the league dressing room, it's what you thought you were coming into. You're coming into a really morose, shocked, sad, depressed, devastated dressing room. Even because football means fuck all compared to life. Like, and these guys are devastated, and you're coming into a dressing room instead of being on a real high. You're trying to drag people up and going, "Come on, let's go again." And people going, "Well, what do you mean go again? What the fuck does football matter? My best mate's just died." Like, it for all of us, we've all lost people. Puts life into perspective, doesn't it? So to be so for those players to be people, I can't believe they're not bothered. They lost 6 games out of 7. Well, the last time someone close to you died, did you really care about the football results massively for the? Probably not. And so I do think that's a huge side of it. And so I do think Slot should have the season as an absolute minimum. Absolute minimum. Because we've said it, other teams, you don't go to being crap overnight, and they won the league last year. And you can argue and debate other teams dropped off and all the rest of it, but fundamentally, it's just if you manage to be consistent across 38 games, you deserve to win the league. But it's not your job to make other teams compete for 38 games. That's their job. So Liverpool did their job very, very well, executed the plan to perfection, and they're having a really difficult time on transition. Partly because it's a really difficult year to transition anyway, and partly because they've had an absolute shock that's rocked them to their core. And so I think for me, he gets the season, and he gets the season for me. Even if they finish 17th, I still won't get rid of him because I just think he deserves that time to try and bring the vision to life.
No, point, Phil. I agree. I agree. Doesn't need. I agree. They shouldn't sack him anytime soon. So yeah,
don't get me wrong. It doesn't stop me bantering Liverpool fans and mocking them. Like I'd still be doing that, but in reality, he needs time. They need time. He needs time. And unfortunately, you don't get it.
Yeah.
You don't get the Premiership. Unfortunately, the last thing they want now is 3 games in a week. Because if they lose 1 or 2, something all the noise is back on them again.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens on Sunday, and we'll review it on Monday as well. But let's move on. We're running out of time, so Last game Sunday, 4:30 to kick off. We've got Chelsea at home to Arsenal. Nathan, we'll let you get in here before Phil this time. Where do you see this one going?
So, game of the weekend, isn't arguably. You've got two teams that have just literally come off two fantastic results in Europe in midweek. Obviously, Chelsea, very comfortable winners against Barcelona, and then obviously Arsenal coming off with the better second half against, they're unbelievable when they, as a team, second half against Bayern Munich. You've got Arsenal now that that far in front. Do they think that will they have that in them to think to themselves, right? If we win this, we're on track to win the league. Chelsea be looking at this, going, well, if we can get 3 points here, it gives us that little bit closer to Arsenal. And obviously during the festing period, there's a lot of football to play. Could we see Arsenal coming unstuck? It's a very interesting game for me. I think Arsenal have been absolutely fantastic this season. I think obviously where they stand now, they're very good. Shout for the league. Unbelievable squad. Obviously, they helped with did Odegaard come back midweek? Phil, was so obviously that's going to be a big plus. I know he's not obviously not match fit, but he'll play some part. You would have thought against Chelsea. So it's going to be hard. I know that sometimes they've been a bit inconsistent at the bridge, haven't they, Arsenal? They don't always get the results there. I am going to back Arsenal to win, though. I was going to go for Chelsea, but I am going to back Arsenal. I'm going to go for a really, really tight 1-0 Arsenal win.
1-0 Arsenal, Nathan. Go on then, Phil. Where are you going?
So, the next demolition derby. Arsenal, I can't get over what an unbelievable game it was yesterday to dismantle one of the best teams in Europe in the second half. Phenomenal result for Chelsea on Tuesday as well, but I think Barcelona made it very, very easy for them. That suicidal high line. I thought Postecoglou was the manager for that first half, but Arsenal won't make it that easy for them, and Chelsea will be a difficult task, but they're not. They don't have Arsenal's experience. I think, without giving my Tottenham speech again, I do genuinely think Arsenal have the better players, team, squad, and manager. So obviously they're away from home, which makes it difficult. But let's face it, they're 5 minutes down the road away from home. It's not like they're a long way away from home. I do think you're right, Nathan. Past challenges at the bridge, but I think it's a different Arsenal this season. It's become, or they've become, or they're becoming, should I say? Maybe that's probably more accurate. They're becoming a winning machine now. You look at it, think, what is it? 17 games this season. 15 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. Like, that's just unbelievable stats for any team. Bearing in mind that includes teams like Bayern Munich in there. That includes Liverpool, Newcastle, Manchester City, Manchester United, for what they're worth anymore. So I just think it's a massively different Arsenal. Absolutely Chelsea up front. Chelsea are absolutely their most dangerous playing against big teams because the young players, I think we talked about a couple of weeks ago, they get up for the big teams because they want to play in.
Yeah.
I don't think youthful excitement and youthful adrenaline is enough to beat this Arsenal team. I just don't, and they certainly won't be anywhere near as easy on Chelsea as Barcelona were from a defensive point of view. And they'll be far more dangerous from an attacking point of view because Barcelona, Cucurella did an unbelievable job marking Yamal out of the game. Absolutely unbelievable job, but that's because Barcelona, they didn't have Rashford on to start with, so you've only got one threat. Arsenal have got 3, 4, 5 threats on the pitch to start with. Add in the fact they've got that off the bench. Jesus is back on the bench this weekend, possibly Havertz as well, depending on what happens. What they said in the press conference. And I just think for Arsenal now, they've got the mentality of, I think we still talk about outside, and probably as an Arsenal fans, just get my head around being quite nervous about this week. I think they now view it as an opportunity. They've used Bayern Munich as an opportunity to put a marker down. I think they've viewed last weekend as an opportunity to smash Tottenham and really put it to them. And I think they'll see it as an opportunity to extend the lead, and I don't think they'll make a mess of it. I don't think it'll be easy, but I do think that Arteta's far more accomplished than Maresca at in-game management now after what he's learned over these last few years, and he's showing that in the last few games where the last few victories you can see what he's done from the sidelines, and on Wednesday definitely he led the team to victory. His changes made all the difference. So in no way as cocky as it was against Tottenham. I think it'd be far harder. I think Chelsea would be far more difficult. Obviously, Cole Palmer's still meant to be out. They're still missing their best player. Yes, they're more solid defensively, but I do think Chalobah's got a mistake in him still. Cucurella obviously looks fantastic, so that'll be a really interesting battle, him against Saka. Madueke will be fired up to prove that he shouldn't have been sold. I'm clearly, not going to back against Arsenal, at the worst of times, but at the best of times at this point in time. And I certainly don't think Chelsea are better than Bayern Munich. So I'll go for a rip-roaring Arsenal 3, Chelsea 1, and give Chelsea the same swing of the bat as I give Bayern Munich.
Yeah, I think it'll be a close game myself, to be fair. I think Chelsea will give you a little bit more of a challenge than you saw on against Bayern, to be fair. I think Chelsea look really well. If they can keep that, if they can stay as organised as they were at the back, it'll be an interesting one. But I'm still going to go with Arsenal. I think it's going to be a bit tighter, and I'm going to go 2-1 to Arsenal. I think it'll be an edgy game. It'll be a good watch. I can't wait to watch that one, to be fair. It'll be a really good one to watch.
It'll be a horrible watch. If the Arsenal team have reached the mentality of being winners, I'll tell you now, us as fans haven't quite yet got there. There'll be too many years of hurt behind us, so it'll be a horrible watch. But hopefully, it'll be a very enjoyable 7:00.
Yeah. Hopefully, well, to be fair, I mean, if you do win, does that put Chelsea? Is that Chelsea's title hopes quashed as well, or do we still think Chelsea?
If we win, I think we're behind it. If we win, Chelsea are what? Chelsea are 9 points behind.
3 games.
For me, I could off the cuff say yes. For me, I don't think anybody's out of it. I genuinely don't. We're 12 games in. Newcastle. Sorry, let's not be stupid. Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea. Like Nathan just said, Villa have just won 7 games in a row. You've got all the teams behind are capable of winning 7, 8, 9, 10 games in a row, and that puts pressure on anybody at the top because you've then got to win 7, 8, 9, 10 games in a row. So, I don't think anybody's out of it. Certainly not. I think absolutely does it pile a mental. That's all Arsenal can do at the minute is try and pile mental pressure on the chasing teams by making it harder for them. But it's a hard, like Nathan said, it's a hard season for everybody. You look at Gabriel's out for another 5 or 6 weeks yet. There's rumours that this Trossard injury from Wednesday night is going to be 4 to 6 weeks. And he's been looking great on the left-hand side, so who comes in and plays on the left? So everyone's trying to manage injuries. There's difficult games to come. We've got Villa a week on Saturday, who are obviously in great form as well. So I don't think anyone's out of it, because you could say they're out of it, and it's bullshit. Because if you drop points at Brentford on Wednesday to a long, because he'll change the team against Brentford. So let's say that misfires and you drop points and they get a draw, and then Villa get the win on Saturday, and suddenly before you know it, you say Sunday evening, Chelsea are out of it, and by next Sunday evening, Chelsea right back in it. They're 2 points behind Arsenal because they've won 2, and Arsenal have dropped points. So no one's out of anything. And like Nathan says, Christmas is a crazy, crazy time in English football, isn't it? Anything, but I think if we were sat having this conversation at the end of January, and you were going to say Arsenal might go to 9 points clear, then I might say to you, their chances might be done, but not at the start of December. There's too many games in December and January. Too many. That's a problem. It piles pressure on them, but it's certainly not over. No.
Long way to go. Obviously, long way to go. And like I say, a really busy period, especially with the cup games and the European nights still. So. But yeah, well, that's every fixture for the weekend. There's no Monday Night Football this weekend. Well, this week coming.
Everyone's playing on Wednesday, aren't they?
Yeah. So busy week coming up. Start of the chaos, really, isn't it? Now from now till New Year, just football thick and fast.
No international football. Give us Premiership football by the bucket load.
I love it. Well, guys, that's us done with our predictions for this week. If you are watching along, make sure you drop your predictions into the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe as well. Hit that bell for when we go live next week, and we'll review the results there, and then poke fun at our points that we've scored. Let's see if we can knock Phil off the top of our little leaderboard that we've got going on. Let's see if Nathan can.
We're only 12 games in. It's a long way yet, Sean.
It certainly is. But yeah, I think that's everything covered for this week. And thanks for watching, Nathan. Phil, thanks again for your company. It's been lovely to have you as always. Won't be with the same without you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Guys, thanks for watching, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.